All right, what's up, everybody? It is the NFL Combine Show from Indianapolis. I'm here in the hotel room. You probably recognize the different background, and I can prove that I'm at the Combine because the minute that I rolled into Indianapolis downtown, the first thing that I saw was this vehicle right here. Unmistakable. That is Jerry Jones' bus. I didn't see Jerry, but I saw Stephen Jones at Prime 47. So Jerry Jones rolls around the NFL Combine in his custom-made Dallas Cowboys bus, and I guess his son Stephen Jones does as well. This is the first thing that I saw in Indianapolis. You'll see this bus rolling around town, taking Jerry, Stephen, whoever from the Cowboys to all the spots over the course of the week. But I don't see that all too many times. I made a video from Elizabethtown, Kentucky on my drive up here today. And now I'm going to be in town for the week here in Indianapolis. So we'll call this the 49ers report from the NFL Combine. I've already mentioned that we expect John Lynch to speak on Tuesday. Tomorrow, I've got some company meetings, so we'll see if any news comes out of Monday. One thing that we're waiting for is the 49ers defensive coordinator announcement. Not just the announcement, I think that we're waiting for just any sort of news coming out of the 49ers on the defensive coordinator front, because we haven't heard any concrete reports of interviews or any of the such regarding that defensive coordinator position. Now, there's a subset of people that I sense are getting antsy to that. I say, guys, the 49ers don't play a game until September. They don't hold a practice, OTA practice until May. I get it. There's going to be some offseason program work they need to do, but February 25th is not a day by which you need to have a defensive coordinator. It's not going to make a difference if you have a defensive coordinator on February 25th or March 2nd or March 3rd. I think you probably would like to have somebody installed by the start of the new league year at the latest, because that's when you can start going after those bigger name free agents, and you're going to want to make sure that the defensive coordinator is in place so you could coordinate your efforts on the market, so you could start doing that good draft research with one of those members of the coaching staff in the building. But February 25th, for all we know, Kyle Shanahan could have been taking a vacation over the past 2 weeks since the Super Bowl. Maybe he's been in Cabo for the past 2 weeks since the Super Bowl, and he hasn't started the interview process yet. The thing about what happened with Steve Wilks is most vacancies had been filled by the time that the 49ers fired Steve Wilks. So, head coaching, defensive coordinator vacancies filled. The candidates who were available a couple weeks ago when Shanahan first made this move are still available right now. So Shanahan has to make sure that he gets his head straight, clear, and he's ready to make the right call, because obviously the Wilks hiring didn't work out last year. I just don't think that February 25th is a deadline of any sort. There was a report last week that Shanahan might be zeroing in on a candidate. That being said, we didn't hear any firm names. It was just all speculation. So at this point, I really, really wouldn't be waiting for another shoe to drop. I think that let's just see what happens. We'll talk to John Lynch on Tuesday. We can move forward pragmatically, and we can realize the 49ers are not playing a game anytime soon. So hiring a defensive coordinator is absolutely not a rush for San Francisco. Anyway, I will tell you guys what's going to happen this week besides the Lynch availability. And I think I'm going to get some time away from the podium with John Lynch. And that's usually a really good media session that we can have with Lynch when he's not just crowded by all the reporters. I think both sessions are going to happen on Tuesday. No, I do not think that Kyle Shanahan will be here. He hasn't been at the Combine over the past 2 years, and you can extend that to 3 years, because in 2020, I guess there was an NFL Combine in 2020. There weren't owners meetings in 2020, but there was a Combine before everything hit that year, because that all hit in March, and the Combine was in February. I'm not sure if Shanahan was at that one, but I know that he hasn't been at the past two. So right now, it's a holding pattern. We're all sitting back. We're all waiting to see who shows up and who doesn't. But the 49ers and their whole draft process, I think the most insight that we're going to get about that is going to come through the whole visit process that's going to happen. And shout out to Steph Sanchez, does a great job tracking all the visits and all the contact that the 49ers have reportedly had through social media, and she does some of her own reporting as well. Steph, 49K is the handle on Twitter. So shout out to Steph Sanchez, who does a great job tracking all that. I think if you go to that Twitter handle, you actually will be able to click on one of the spreadsheets that tracks all of that. And I think that's going to be a hell of a lot better piece of intel than anything actually that comes out of the NFL Combine as far as what the 49ers are going to do in the draft. That draft is going to be huge for the 49ers. 11 picks. And we know that the salary cap has increased to $255.4 million. The NFL set that on Friday. The cap has increased 13.6% over last season, higher than most anybody expected. That gives the 49ers extra spending money to keep the core together. It still does not take away from the importance of them hitting on this 11-player draft because, again, even if finances are not considered, the NFL is rightfully a young man's league. I mean, this is everybody that uses that cliche is correct. Teams can age out very quickly if you don't have young, cost-controlled talent, hungry talent performing at the margins. No matter how many superstars you have at the top, you could have 10 superstars at the top, but there are 53 men on a roster. So this 11-player draft class that's coming to San Francisco at the end of April, it's going to have to be one that is, I think, ready to contribute at least 5 guys deep. At least 5 guys are going to need to be able to contribute right away starting next year. We're talking special teams. I'm not saying starting roles. I'm talking reserve roles, good practice roles, keep the culture of the building flowing. This draft class is going to be important. So that's why we are watching this combine and we're watching all the clues of who the 49ers do interview over the course of the next 2 months. I think the draft actually starts on April 25th, and it is February 25th. So we're 2 months away from that NFL draft, and we're less than a month away from the start of free agency. One thing that John Lynch is probably going to talk about is the 49ers executive situation underneath him at the assistant GM job, because Adam Peters is left to become part of the Washington Commanders. He is their general manager. So the 49ers are handling this internally, either their director of college scouting, Tariq Ahmad, or the director of pro scouting, RJ Gillen. Those two have been next in line to move up to assistant GM. And we'll see who the 49ers have exactly chosen. I think John Lynch will speak to that on Tuesday. All right, so we are now on the 49ers Q&A. Why don't I flip it back to that text title? And why don't we begin talking? I just saw a comment from somebody saying that the 49ers need to hit on their draft picks. It's Pharrell saying that. Yeah, Pharrell Quadra. Got to hit with those draft picks, 11 of them this year. You don't have to hit on all 11. But I think that you have to do a good job of making sure that you do get at least a clump of talent that is able to contribute right away to support a roster that's not getting any younger at its core, right? And the 49ers played 20 games in each of the past 3 seasons. So it's been 3 straight marathons for the 49ers, 60 games over 3 seasons. None of that is easy, but I don't think that there's been a sign of a slowdown from the core, which goes to show you the talent level and the conditioning level of who the 49ers have. At some point, they are going to slow down. But I don't think that point is imminent. I think that they can be confident that their core will be able to run it back in 2024, with good vigor. But that doesn't disqualify the need for hitting on the draft picks, because your core can only do so much. And so much of what determines a good football team versus a bad football team or just a mediocre football team is what the team is able to do at the margins. And the margins are going to be largely determined by how good this draft class is. Steven Ramirez points out, got to hit on at least 5 of 6 of the 11. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a good class. If you could hit 50% of any draft class, especially when you have 11 picks, your success rate is looking nice. And I think that will help the 49ers insulate what they already have. SA wants the 49ers to make the O-line a priority. Gopher Baroque is talking about the offensive line too. Thinking about the 49ers offensive lineman from the late 80s, early 90s, Harris Barton. There's another O-lineman named Barton available in the draft, Graham Barton. No relation to Harris, though. Yeah, I'm very curious to see if the 49ers in this draft go interior early on, somebody that could play center for them. Graham Barton is an offensive lineman at Duke. He played left tackle at Duke. We'll see what he projects to at the NFL level. He's about 6'5", 313 pounds. The 49ers and the combine is going to determine and narrow down so many of these positional projections for us. But I think the 49ers, their weakest position along the offensive line is at right guard. They also have a potential hole in the future. Jake Brendel's under contract for 2 more years, but he wasn't their strongest starter at center. But center is just so important in Kyle Shanahan's scheme. And aside from being important, it's something that requires a lot of preparation because of all the cerebral tasks of the job. You've got to call out the protections. You've got to identify the safety rotations and do all that good stuff. Center is in this system is somebody, I don't think it could be a rookie. It has to be somebody who's played. And I do wonder if the 49ers bring in an offensive lineman that has experience, that's in college, obviously, good starting experience in college, that can play right away at right guard, but can also learn the ropes at center as time goes along. I think they may have to go short-term, long-term adaptability. And that's become more and more popular across the NFL over recent years when it comes to picking offensive linemen. I think that's something that San Francisco might do to increase its efficiency of replenishment along that offensive line. And not like they haven't invested at all in the O-line, right? They've invested quite a bit, even in 2021. They just haven't invested enough to restructure that whole front. And right now you've got an imbalanced line. The right side is worse than the left side of the line. And it's important for the 49ers to ameliorate that and continue pumping capital into it over the course of this offseason. Immortal thinks that the Brandon Aiyuk contract won't happen until the start of training camp. He thinks he's going to hold out for a little while. Immortal says we all know the drill. We're going to get more information from John Lynch on this. And, for that, let's just wait. Seriously, it's one of those things where we don't exactly know where Aiyuk stands right now. I think we know where the 49ers stand. They always are going to want to get a bargain early on, and then they negotiate hard. Justin Jefferson's in line for a massive new deal from Minnesota, presumably from Minnesota, unless he goes elsewhere. That probably will command Tyreek Hill money. But remember that Tyreek Hill at $30 million a year to pace that receiver market, that was 2 years ago when he was traded from Kansas City over to Miami. So I think the top of the market's going to be more than $30 million per year for Justin Jefferson. And that, when you see how good Brandon Aiyuk has been, I get it. The target share was not nearly as big, but that was just because of the type of offense the 49ers run. So, he might not command as much money, but with the efficiency being top caliber from Brandon Aiyuk at 18 yards per catch and the blocking ability, all that good stuff, he waits for Justin Jefferson to sign. It's going to be hard for the 49ers to look at whatever Jefferson makes and argue that Aiyuk's numbers shouldn't be getting pulled toward that. I'm not saying he's going to make more than Jefferson. I'm just saying that Jefferson being the big fish in a crowded receiver contract pool this offseason, he can really, really set the other guys up to make significant money. I remember a couple of years ago, we saw that big run on receivers, and even somebody like Christian Kirk made $17 million a year from the Jaguars. So you've got T. Higgins, who's probably a second-tier receiver, who's going to be looking for a contract this year. CeeDee Lamb, similar situation to Brandon Aiyuk and Justin Jefferson. Then you got one of the old guard. You got Mike Evans looking for a new contract this offseason as well. And he's really good. He's one of the most underrated players in football. So a lot of receivers, theoretically, when you've got that many of them vying for money, it could help. It could help from a team standpoint, right? Because there's more supply, so maybe they'll come a little bit cheaper. But it's always hard to gauge exactly how that dynamic is going to work. I do know that a couple of years ago when Deebo Samuel was out there and when DK Metcalf was out there and when A.J. Brown was traded and he needed a new contract too, those guys were all represented by the same agent, Tory Dandy. And it turned into a fascinating offseason of like a game of chicken. Guys were waiting, and Deebo went last. The 49ers went last, and ultimately he signed a lucrative deal, but they got it done. And I think that you don't have a lot of same agent situation this offseason, so I do believe that maybe that won't be as much of a complicating factor, but the 49ers still do want to get something done with Brandon Aiyuk, especially since they have got a little bit more cap money than anybody anticipated. All right, let's go on to some more questions. That was a good comment from Mortal. It's been on the screen for a while. I'll put something else on right now. Looks like people are just arguing about the Rams. I really don't care about the Rams. We'll go to AJ's question. Do the 49ers make a splash with a draft or with a trade or a signing? Hell if I know, man. If I knew, then you could go and take my advice and bet on something. But 49ers probably don't even know what kind of splash they might make. So much of this stuff is if the opportunity arises. I can tell you that they got more cap space than initially thought. I can tell you that last year they made a big splash with a Javon Hargrave signing. I can tell you that the new league year starts in less than a month. And I can tell you that the 49ers probably should be considering themselves to be in an arms race with the Kansas City Chiefs. It's like the 1990s when the Dallas Cowboys beat the 49ers 2 times in a row in the NFC Championship game. San Francisco went out, acquired Deion Sanders, acquired Ken Norton Jr., helped them get over the hump. That's got to be the 49ers mentality this offseason. They've got to think, what can we do to push us past the Chiefs? And, you can argue they're already better than Chiefs this year. They were favored in the game. I get it. But it was still a close game, and the Chiefs recovered 6 of 7 fumbles. And basically, the 49ers were at the mercy of luck to a big degree in that game, and they lost, right? I think to win this Super Bowl, and especially if you're going to have to beat the Chiefs to get to it, you've got to kick the door down if you're the 49ers. And that means do not leave this up to luck. Load up to the point where you could walk up to the door and kick it down, and that's it. You're not taking prisoners if you're the 49ers. That's the way that you overcome the type of adversity that they've overcome. You have to be on a dead set mission to dominate the league next year. It can't just be run it back and let's hope that it goes better next time. It's gather the guys, tell them, I know how much this hurt, get really pissed off, add a piece or two, and go and kick the door down with all of the aggressiveness and vengeance and whatever other emotion you want to add into there. All of that built up with this very painful loss. That's how you get over this kind of hump. If you can't do that, then you end up like the Buffalo Bills in the early 1990s, who would run a similar team out there every year, but lose the Super Bowl every single year, including 2 straight to the Dallas Cowboys. So the 49ers are in a position now where they've lost twice to the Chiefs, where they've had their hearts ripped out in one way or the other in 4 of the past 5 years. It is time for them to figure out a way to circle the wagons and then kick the door down moving into the 2024 season. Why didn't Kyle Shanahan like Trent Brown? Was it the lack of agility? You've answered your own question, Gopher. Trent Brown was a good pass protector, massive body, but it had a hard time keeping the weight down. There was camps where they were talking about him being 380 pounds. I think even with the New England Patriots. Shanahan wants tackles who can really move for his outside zone. So I think it was the lack of mobility that made him not a fit with the current 49ers regime. Steven Ramirez thinks that if the 49ers got Bill Belichick, it'd be a Deion Sanders type of move to get aggressive and get back to the number 1 defense. I mean, the thing is, we'll see who can do that. Well, I think the main key is to play by the basics that got the 49ers to that number 1 spot by 2022. Fred Warner cannot play as a glorified DB. Like he's a linebacker that's elite in coverage, but if you play him like Steve Wilkes did, he was a safety a lot of the time. He's not going to be up near the box, and he's not going to be able to stop the run in the way that he can. And the 49ers run defense dropped down to number 26 or number 27. You're going from number 2 to number 27 with very similar personnel. So Belichick or not, this team just has to get back to its DNA, and that starts with stopping the run. Can I please speculate on Brock Purdy's potential contract extension? I don't think I really can speculate because this is still a year away. Purdy's still got to put up another season. He's had, a year and a half of game time. He's been really good. If he continues playing as well as he has, he's going to be a $50 million a year kind of guy. And it might change the entire calculus of how the 49ers are operating. But that's neither here nor there. That's something that we've got to wait for another year until we truly start discussing. Do I think if the 49ers hired internally, it would have already been announced? I'm not sure. I really am not sure. That there is a possibility, and I'm not reporting this. There is a possibility that Kyle Shanahan has just been on vacation for 2 weeks. Maybe doing a light work, but saying, "Hey, let me wait till around the combine to finalize this." I don't know. But I can't when we have absolutely zero clues as to who's interviewed, who hasn't interviewed, what Shanahan wants. There are no real clues. It's all speculation. Anything could be the truth right now. So I'm just waiting and seeing at this point. There's been no information coming out at this point from the 49ers. James says, we saw how important Dre Greenlaw was in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, linebackers in this defense are so important. And by extension, the defensive coordinator has to be connected to the linebackers. And I don't think that Steve Wilks was well connected to the linebackers. They tried to move him down to the field halfway through to make that better. It helped a little bit, but down the stretch, this defense wasn't what it had been in years prior. Every single quarterback is a system quarterback. Yes, Go for Broke is right. I'm guessing I'm helping you solve some kind of debate, settle a debate in the comment section. I'm guessing. I don't know. I don't read every comment, but if somebody's calling Brock Purdy a system quarterback, every single quarterback in the history of football has been a system quarterback. That includes Joe Montana. That includes Tom Brady. That includes Lamar Jackson. That includes Patrick Mahomes. Every single quarterback has been a system quarterback. It is one of the dumber insults to throw around because it completely ignores the fact that football is a team sport, and this is the ultimate team sport. Well, Mike, some people will say that Joe Montana is the greatest system quarterback, but I could see the argument for Tom Brady as well. All right, that's it from the combine. I'm going to take it easy tonight. It's already 11:30. Got to be up early tomorrow morning, 11:30. I'm on Eastern time today. So just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a look at the NFL combine. Again, first thing I saw today was Jerry Jones's bus. There it is, the big Cowboys star on it. That was outside the Prime 47 Steakhouse. Should be a hell of a week here from Indianapolis. The 49ers Combine Show. Everybody tune in. I'm going to have a lot of updates for you. It's going to be a fun off season. 2 weeks after the Super Bowl, 2 weeks ago, I'm talking to you in Las Vegas at around this time. Super Bowl's ending 2 weeks ago to around this time. Well, guess what? Now I'm in Indianapolis, and we will continue rolling forward with the show as the 49ers try to reload, stock up, and kick the door down in 2024. Everybody have a good night.